Marker.
Do you remember when Pixar movies used to end with bloopers? Woody got stuck in a roll of duct tape, Sully fell, and Flick grabbed the dandelion and shouted,
"To infinity and beyond!"
As weird as it sounds, fans loved it. And for a while, Pixar bloopers were kind of a tradition. Audiences everywhere stayed in their seats after the credits rolled just to see their favorite animated characters mess up like real actors. But then, without warning, they just stopped. So what happened? Well, it turns out the story behind Pixar's bloopers and outtakes is way more strange than you probably thought. Let's get into it. Welcome to Animation Hustle, the place where we dive into the funny and untold stories behind your favorite animated movies and TV shows. So it all started back in 1986 with Luxo Jr., just a short film about two desk lamps playing with the ball. There's no dialogue and no music, just light, movement, and personality.
At that time, there was a conference in the United States called SIGGRAPH, which was really the big thing in the computer graphics world. We wanted to show a film that says who we are. We were 4 people in the animation department at the time. Bill Reeves, who was making this with me, and Emmett Osby, they came to me and said, "We don't have enough computer power to do any moving cameras." And they go, "And by the way, we can't have any background. We can't afford the computer to be able to render it in time." "What do you mean, no background? Just black?" They go, "Yeah." I said, "Can I have a floor?" Because they need to sit on something. They go, "Okay, you can have a floor."
Instead of giving up, John Lasseter, one of Pixar's co-founders, did something unexpected. You see, before Pixar even entered the picture, he was actually working at Disney Animation. And it was there in those early years that he picked up on a powerful lesson from one of Disney's greatest animators.
There was one animator in particular that became probably my closest mentor, and it was Ollie Johnston. My drawing was fairly weak. I knew what I wanted the animation to be, but I just couldn't get the drawings to work. And I was so focused on the drawing, and he would look at it and he goes, "John, what's the character thinking?" He never, ever thought about the drawings. It was always the character.
So instead of focusing on the technology and all the problems that it was creating, they decided to focus on the characters.
The Luxo lamp really became kind of the simplest little character I could do. I wanted to animate him only using the controls the real lamp had.
Even though it was a simple character design, he thought of every single detail from a character-first perspective.
Tom Porter came into the graphics room with Spencer, his son. His proportions were totally different than that of an adult. I started thinking, what would a baby lamp look like? So I started scaling this regular Luxo lamp in really short arms. I left the shade kind of bigger. I left the light bulb the exact same size, thinking that that's something that doesn't grow. You buy that at a hardware store,
And then he let the character's personality come out through the movement.
When he's hopping, chasing the ball, he's so excited and happy. He can barely spend any time on the ground. At a certain point, he pops the ball. And he hops out. But it's a completely different hop. And it's so clear, he's sad. It's that kind of thing that Ollie was talking about. What's the character thinking?
And after days and days of work, Luxo Jr. was finally completed and ready to be shown.
SIGGRAPH was in Dallas, Texas that year, and it's in a big conference hall, and there's 1,000 people or so. Luxo Jr. came up, and before the minute and a half was over, they were giving it a standing ovation. Right after that, one of the real pioneers of computer animation is named Jim Blinn. This guy was super smart. He came up to me and he said, "John, I have a question for you." And I thought, oh no. And I was like, he's gonna ask me about the self-shadowing algorithm or something, and I'm sure not gonna have the answer for him. And he said, "Was the parent lamp a mother or a father?"
So Luxo Jr. went on to be the first CGI animated short film to be nominated for an Academy Award, which is incredible, but more importantly, it created the character-driven foundation of Pixar. This is a philosophy John Lasseter deeply believed in.
What was unique about Pixar, unlike anywhere else in the world, it was that knowledge of let's combine the technology and the art, the expertise of both, and work together. And the view of the technology is a tool.
Lasseter believed what made Pixar so special wasn't the technology, it was the characters, the emotions, the personality, So every detail, from the way the characters blinked to how they paused mid-sentence, was designed to make them feel alive.
He needed Woody to kind of be thinking and figure something out. All he did was shift Woody's eyes side to side. I sat back and it was like, oh my God, he's alive.
So naturally, Pixar started asking, like, what if these characters were real actors? I know it sounds silly, but that's exactly how the idea for these animated bloopers were born. So it all started with A Bug's Life. At the time, Pixar's animation team was under huge pressure. Toy Story had just changed animation forever, and now the entire world was watching to see what they would do next. But behind the scenes, the studio still felt like a bunch of friends just having fun.
Because I always believe that if you're having fun making the movie, it's going to appear on the screen.
They were known across the industry for their lighthearted work environment. I mean, yeah, they were making amazing movies, but they were also goofing off. Like, a lot. I mean, what other studio lets you build a mini golf course in the hallway? And the animators always decorated their offices in fun ways too. Animator Andrew Gordon took this to the next level and had the coolest office in the entire studio. If you went inside and pressed this button, this bookshelf opened up, revealing a hidden lounge. And sometimes they would stop work in the middle of production and have a studio-wide meeting. But instead of going over spreadsheets, everyone would design and build their own custom paper airplanes, and they would fly them across the studio. Clearly, they had a lot of fun, but one of their silliest moments happened when the hijinks spilled out of the studio onto national TV.
You know, it's really hard to get yourself on the Today Show outside the thing, but it's really easy to reach through the crowd.
One day, a few Pixar animators tagged along to watch the Today Show being filmed in New York. Now, normally people just stand around in the background while they're filming. But instead, Pixar animators crashed the taping in a way that only Pixar animators would.
So we had color Xeroxes of Andrew's face, you know, and they had him put on sticks. Al Roker comes up to interview someone. All of a sudden, these faces come up right next to him, and they're wiggling, and there's nothing they can do about it. And of course, they have the set covering the glass so no one can reach in there, but boy, you can reach above the set.
Doing that.
It was dumb, it was a little immature, but it was so Pixar. And that same playful spirit was carried over into the animation as well. Because while creating A Bug's Life, they began making fake outtakes, like little animated clips of characters flubbing their lines and breaking props and goofing around on set, just like live-action actors would do. No one really planned for them to be in the final movie, but then John Lasseter saw them and absolutely loved them.
It's the story, it's the characters, it's the emotion, it's the acting, it's the humor. This is what you walk out going, wow, because.
So Lasseter made the call to put the bloopers into the actual movie's credits. It was something totally new, and audiences loved it.
Are you saying I'm stupid?
After A Bug's Life, Pixar realized they found something special. So they went all in on these animated bloopers. And so naturally, their next film had to raise the bar. Woody got tangled in duct tape, characters forgot their lines, Mr. Potato Head's face kept messing up mid-scene, and then there was Stinky Pete. The old prospector known in the movie for being a cranky recluse was caught in his quote-unquote dressing room, shamelessly flirting with two Barbie dolls. He then delivered a subtle joke that definitely was not for kids.
You know, I'm sure I could get you a part in Toy Story 3. I'm sorry, are we back?
Remember that, because it'll come back later. Then Monsters, Inc. came out in 2001, and once again, the bloopers were mwah, chef kiss. Sully falls on his face, Mike Wazowski forgets his lines, and Raj shows up again and again and again.
Ta-da!
It was genius, perfectly timed, perfectly written, perfectly executed. And with DVDs exploding in popularity in the early 2000s, Pixar bloopers entered a whole new era. You didn't have to wait for a theatrical rewatch. You didn't have to hope someone uploaded a grainy version online. You could just rewind your DVD player and relive those bloopers over and over and over again. For this generation of fans, the bloopers became just as memorable as the movies themselves.
Okay, let's move.
Pixar was killing it with the bloopers, and other studios tried to capture that same spark. So for a while, everyone was taking a swing at animated outtakes. Lion King.
Keep it rolling.
The Lego Movie.
Welcome to the Lego Movie.
Even Cartoon Network got in on the action.
That's why I'm officially declaring every other Saturday Powder Puff Day. What?
It's kind of wild to think about now, but for a stretch of time, animated bloopers became their own little genre. But somewhere along the line, that spirit just faded. After a stretch of absolute gold from A Bug's Life through Monsters, Inc., Pixar suddenly stopped. Finding Nemo's had no bloopers, The Incredibles skipped them too, and by the time Cars hit theaters in 2006, the beloved blooper tradition was officially gone. But the story doesn't stop. Pixar didn't just toss aside their quirky sense of humor entirely. Instead, they quietly replaced the classic blooper format with something new. technical goof reels. Now, these weren't in-credit scenes. You had to really dig for them. Usually they were buried in DVD extras or studio presentations or these random behind-the-scenes featurettes. But they existed, and they were weird.
Cool, ready for takeoff.
They were fun because they gave fans a peek into the chaos of early CGI animation, and you got to see just how much could go wrong before the final polish. But they just weren't the same. Gone was the charm of Woody breaking the fourth wall, or Ham missing his cue. These weren't character-driven jokes, they were just technical hiccups. Interesting, but there was no character personality shining through. And soon after that, technical goof reels and bloopers both disappeared. So what happened? Why did Pixar stop making these bloopers? The most popular theory is simple. Disney killed them. Despite what young me used to think, these bloopers weren't actually bloopers at all. Everything had to be made from scratch, and it took time. A lot of time. So when Disney bought Pixar for $7.4 billion in 2006, corporate may have stepped in and slashed them because they were too expensive and didn't really justify the extra hours. It's a solid theory, and yeah, cost probably played a part, but that's not the full story. The infamous Pete joke from the Toy Story 2 bloopers didn't exactly age gracefully. And in hindsight, a powerful older toy winking at two Barbie dolls and implying inappropriate behavior was kinda yikes. Especially after the Me Too movement in 2010s, which focused on raising awareness and combating sexual harassment, Pixar quietly removed that blooper. Another possibility I don't hear many people talk about is how the animators themselves might have ended it. After a certain point, maybe they thought the joke had just ran its course. You can only do so many messed up lines and prop gags before it all starts to feel repetitive, especially when you've already done it to near perfection in A Bug's Life and Toy Story 2. And maybe the biggest reason, and the one that explains everything, is this. Pixar changed. Their tone, their storytelling, their ambition, it all evolved. As movies like Nemo and The Incredibles and Ratatouille leaned into that more emotional realism and mature storytelling, maybe the idea of cartoony bloopers at the end just didn't fit. It's one thing to see Woody trip over a boom mic. It's an entirely different thing to tack jokes onto movies about family trauma, generational pressures, or clownfish searching for his missing son. But that brings us to today. Because more than 2 decades after Pixar quietly phased out their bloopers, they made a surprise return in 2025 with Elio. Well, at least they tried to. So for Elio, Pixar dropped a short blooper reel before the movie even hit theaters. And while it looked like a nostalgic throwback of animated characters messing up their lines, breaking props, and cracking jokes, it didn't land the same way. I kind of think that's because the original bloopers were an extension of Pixar's belief that the characters were actors. And so with Elio, we hadn't seen them grow or struggle or bond on screen, so when the bloopers dropped, there was no emotional foundation. It was like they simply did it for marketing and to make a few dollars. And I think audiences could tell. Instead of being a clever bonus or emotional payoff, the reel felt disconnected from the legacy it was trying to revive. It lacked the context, the character familiarity, and the heart that made Pixar's golden era outtakes so special.
We found this rather primitive.
So it's easy to look back at Pixar's animated bloopers and just see them as clever jokes, but they were so much more than that. They were magical. They made us believe the characters were real, and like John Lasseter said, the goal of their animation was to make the audiences believe the characters were alive, and the bloopers were that philosophy in action. You can literally feel how much joy the animators had making them, pushing their creativity, adding depth and comedy, and giving their characters a second life beyond just the story. They weren't building a movie, they were building a world, and the bloopers reminded us how much love and imagination went into every single frame.
Marker.
So that brings us to the big question. Should Pixar bring bloopers back? And not the awkward marketing clips, not the pre-release promos, but the real thing. Handcrafted, character-driven outtakes. Do you think that magic could still work today? I want to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below and let me know. And if you want to see more videos about movies where you can feel the animators' love in every single frame, check out this video right here. Trust me, it's worth your time.